Hello, you're listening to Attack Friday, actionable tips, tricks, and coachable knowledge. Attack Friday is brought to you by the Change Your POV Podcast Network. And I'm Eddie Lazary, your host. Let's get ready to attack. All right, folks, so let's get this party started. Welcome to Attack Friday, actionable tips, tricks, and coachable knowledge. This is episode ATT211, which is ATTACK211. And today we're going to talk about number 2 of the 11 things that you need to know that you don't necessarily get taught, but you still need to know anyway. Number 2 is how you look is how you're seen. Now, a lot of what we talk about, these 11 things, are things that I had to learn the hard way. And after spending some time in corporate America and doing a lot of, getting my MBA and getting educated, I realized that, man, there's just a lot of things in life that we're expected to know, but no one is really teaching us these things. They just aren't. So you either have to either you're lucky enough to have a mentor to kind of pull you aside and show you the ropes and teach you all these things, or you end up kind of learning them on your own along the way. And it's this terrible place that we all live in, and it's called the place of I don't know what I don't know, right? We all know that there's things that we should probably know better or get better at, right? Those are things we know we need to know better. But then there's this crazy world of there's things that you just don't know that you don't know, right?
True story.
And so we've brought Bennett on this episode to talk about this particular topic around how you look is how you were seen. And the reason this is important to me is because I see a lot of people doing this wrong, or they're completely oblivious or unaware that they're doing this wrong. So, and again, all 11 of these things is really structured around the being successful in the corporate world or in the entrepreneurial space, or owning your business, like in your professional life, right? But there's a lot of things that you could take away from these 11 things that you can apply into your personal life as well. So there is some crossover, but the main focus here is on your professional life, whether it be, in corporate America as an entrepreneur doing your own thing. Because at the end of the day, folks, if you do own your own business and you're an entrepreneur, you think you work for yourself, but really you don't. You're still working for the customer,
Yeah,
right?
for sure. Yeah. So one thing I want to bring up though is it's pertinent, but it's not like needle nose down and on the topic, right? But it's pertinent and it goes along with what you always say, and you just said is you only know what you know, right?
Yeah.
Well, how much do we know that we actually have proof of? Like, you can actually explain the mechanism of why that is.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how do we know the earth is round? Right? So what I mean is, who can actually answer so we know the earth is round, why? Or, take that, it's the information that we take for granted,
right?
Because somebody told us and somebody told them, and it's what's the accepted. This is why it is what it is, right? It is what it is. How many times do you hear that? Mm-hmm. So I'm going to challenge folks to don't accept it is what it is, and kind of question why. Why is the earth round?
Right.
What's the mechanism behind that? Right.
Mm-hmm.
How do we know that the earth goes around the sun and the sun doesn't go around the earth? I mean, these were fundamental questions a few hundred years ago, right?
Yeah.
But I'm telling you, even now, 90% of people don't know the mechanism of why. Why do we say the earth goes around the sun? Mm-hmm. It is what it is. But why is it what it is?
Right.
So do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So make yourself a list. Do like 7 different things, figure them out, and then go to the next 7.
Right.
I mean, something as easy as like, how is coffee made? Or things that pique your interest, right? So just become more educated in your whole life. Why? How does the stock market work? Do you think as an entrepreneur that might help be useful information?
Right.
Because I'm telling you, it's not as easy as buying stocks and selling stocks. It's not that simple.
Right. And
So find skills that could help you as an entrepreneur or as a human be a better human. Find those things, those questions that you don't really know. You're like, damn, well, I guess I don't really know the answer to this, and this might actually help me. So
yeah, I
that's
think what you're saying there, and correct me if I'm wrong, but what I'm hearing you say is things that the things that you know. Let's say if you were to take the culmination of everything that you know and put it into a bottle, that doesn't mean that that's the only thing that's known in the world, right?
Right. Well, it's kind of like, what do you really know?
Right.
What do you actually really know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yes, the earth is round. But how do we know that?
Right.
I keep focusing on that because I'm like, there's a mechanism there. Right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How do we know where we sit in there's a million different things you could say.
Yeah.
What do we actually really know?
Mm-hmm.
And find out. Go find out the answers to these questions.
Yep.
Because they'll help you, and that goes right along with this. It's one of those. It's a thing. It's just because you know something doesn't mean you actually know something.
Exactly.
So,
right. Right. Exactly.
And how way too often people come across as if they actually know, and they know because they've been told, but they don't actually know.
Well, that's the thing, and that's where these 11 things came from, is because there was a lot of preconceived notions that I had when I got out of the military, or things that I thought I knew, or things that I thought to be true, that ended up not being the case, right? And
like, here's a great example: is Obamacare.
Yeah.
Who understands it? Who knows it? Nope. No, not very many people that I do. You understand what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah.
So, but people be like, "Yep, it sucks."
Yep.
Well, how do you know it sucks? Like, this is rampant within our society.
Yeah.
Like, how do you really know it sucks? Like, people don't understand gun laws from state to state. They just don't.
Right.
So before you start saying, please start coming from a position of education, not just spouting off at the mouth because Sean Hannity told you to.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Or Rush Limbaugh, or Elizabeth Warren, or Chuck Schumer. You know what I mean? Seriously.
Yeah. Yep.
Or Donald Trump tweeted it. Seriously? Come
on. So we've got we got 5 talking points.
Yeah. There you go. Let's do this.
Number 1 is how you see you and how others see you, right? May be different. Number 2 is take a look at yourself from the eyes of your managers. And number 3, find a mentor model. Number 4, just because it's not fair doesn't mean it's not true. And number 5, find a quote fly. Let me say that again. Number 5 is find a your fly is open friend. You're like, what the hell is a your fly is open?
Everybody needs one of those.
So we're going to talk about that. So number 1, how you see you and how others see you. And again, a lot of this is based around my own epiphanies, my own experiences around this. And I, again, this is something that is near and dear to my heart because I ended up learning this the hard way. So at the end of the day, attire in the workplace is a very touchy subject. And in my experience, is handled in one of 2 ways. So I'm going to read these 2, and you let me know if this sounds familiar with your workplace, Bennett. Number 1, someone isn't happy with what you're wearing or what someone else is wearing. So they approach HR, and HR is now holding the ball to address the issue. Number 2, someone isn't happy with what you're wearing, so they say nothing to you and talk to everyone else behind your back, right? In my experience, those have been the 2 methods by which attire in the workplace has been handled. Now,
Oh yeah.
yeah, so, if you're listening to this right now and you're like, oh, I'm the one that goes to HR, then we're talking about you. If you're the person that works in HR and you're like, oh my God, everybody comes to me about this, then you can relate. Or number three, if you're the person in the equation that people are talking about, then man, that kind of puts you in a bad spot, right? Especially if you don't know, right? Again, it goes back to not knowing what you don't know, right? Um, really quick story, Bennett, and I think I may have told you this before, and I've kind of alluded to it on the show a couple of times. But when I was a manager in a defense contracting company, I had a lot of direct reports, probably more than I should have. I don't know why they had that many. I couldn't manage that many at one time for sure. And but there was a handful of folks that I kind of picked out of the crowd as my top performers, and I scheduled one-on-ones and was developing a relationship with them and trying to coach them and help them succeed in whatever they wanted to pursue. And one of these young individuals, he was in his 20s,
Oh yeah, I know this story.
and
I
he want
remember this story.
yeah, and he wanted to basically someday do what I was doing as a supervisor, as a manufacturing supervisor. And great kid. I mean, he was an assembler. He was an individual contributor, as they call it, assembler on the manufacturing line. Great assembler. He had some amazing skills. He actually taught me how to solder underneath the microscope. Some really fine pitch soldering techniques. Really, actually pretty cool stuff. And and so we started this one-on-one, weekly one-on-ones, and we started down the road of coaching. And he says, basically, he came to me and he says, "Hey, can you help me, do what you do someday and be in the position you're in someday as a supervisor?" And so it's like, okay, so what you're talking about is you're looking for from me is a mentor or a coach. And I said, I'm willing to do that. However, you have to be willing to meet me halfway and at least follow the recommendations that I'm providing you. And he goes, deal. So we made it like a little soft contract that he signed and I signed. It was, not a really formal, I mean, it wasn't like a legal binding document. It was just an agreement between us, basically saying that I would provide my time and effort into helping him develop. And as long as he met me halfway, that's all I asked, right? And so there's many stories around this guy that I mentored over a couple of years, but the one that pertains to this is around attire. And so I started to sit with him, and I was like, okay, his name is Mike. I was like, okay, Mike. I said, now I said, I don't really care. There's no dress code when it comes to like the assemblers, right? You could just, as long as you're wearing like clothes and you don't have open-toed shoes on, like you're
Right.
good. No one's, you know what I mean? Like no one's saying anything about what you're wearing, right?
Right.
And so this is a young kid, and he comes to work and he's just kind of wearing like if I were to describe someone that most people are listening to this might recognize, like if you could think of like a young Eminem, with that type of attire, maybe some baggy pants with a really
And the t-shirt.
in a t-shirt, right? Exactly, with some large necklace type jewelry and like a chain holding the wallet into the back pocket that's looped into the belt. So it's like it's nothing wrong with that attire at all, nothing wrong with it. And as an assembler, totally absolutely nothing wrong with it, right? And but if he ever if he had aspirations of becoming a supervisor slash manager someday, then that type of attire just didn't fit the company culture. It just didn't. Not to say that it couldn't fit the company culture of the job that you're at right now, those that are listening, but in this particular environment, that attire or choice selection of attire was not conducive to management. It just wasn't. And so we had a candid conversation about that. And I said, Mike, I said, so the first thing that we need to talk about is your attire. And he goes, at first it's a very difficult thing to listen to somebody talk about things that you wear at work, right? And instantly it was just kind of this position of defense, defensiveness. Like, well, what's wrong with what I wear? It's like, that's it. That's the crux of it. There's nothing wrong with what you're wearing. If you're interested in staying in the job that you're in. However, if you want more in your career and in your job, then your attire has to fit that new construct, right? And so that was basically what we were talking about is what is it about your attire today that is not conducive to management tomorrow, right? And so I kind of had him go through this exercise, and I had him write down five or six names of other supervisors, manufacturing. There's many different manufacturing plants within our company at several different locations, and he's been at the company for a number of years, and he's had an opportunity working in several different factories. And so I said, write down 5 or 6 names of other supervisors that you've worked with. And so he did. And I was like, okay, now I want you to close your eyes and I want you to picture them in your head. What do they look like? And next to each of them, I want you to kind of write down the types of clothes that you imagine that they're wearing. And so he would kind of close his eyes and he would kind of picture each, and then he would open his eyes and he would write next to each of these names, corporate casual, slacks, dress shoes, a belt, polo, collared shirt, like these types of corporate casual type of clothes. And I was like, okay. And then I said, look at what you're wearing, and then look at what all of those other people are wearing. Are they similar or are they different? And he goes, different. And I was like, so there's nothing wrong with what you're wearing in the job that you have. We've all heard the expression, right? Dress for the job you want, not the job you have, right? And I told him simply, if you want to get promoted, then managers, the upper level managers that make decisions about promotion, they have to be able to close their eyes and be able to see you filling those roles or filling that position. And if they can't close their eyes and see you fill that role, then you'll never get promoted no matter how good you are. No matter how much you know, no matter how much education you have, if they can't see you sitting in that seat, filling that role as a supervisor, as a manager, you're never going to get promoted into those positions. And so he understood that there needed to be a change in his attire. And so we talked about basically what he needed to do in order to make that change. And, I gave him a list of, where to go and what to buy. And if you're spending, if you're spending more than X dollars on a pair of pants, then that's too much. If you're spending X number or more on a pair of slacks, then it's too much. And same with belt and shoes. So I kind of gave him a dollar range to work with. And I gave him some advice as to where to go and where to shop and try everything on before you walk out of the store. And, oh, by the way, you're going to feel uncomfortable as hell because it's not something you normally wear. And that's normal. And you're going to come to work and people are going to poke at you for a while. You just got to push through it. And sure enough, that's what happened. Came to work wearing corporate casual, some khaki slacks, some dress shoes, a belt, polo shirts, button-up shirts. And he got poked at for a while by all of his, his counterparts. He first showed up to work and it was, ooh, you got an interview today, the typical comments that you hear, right?
For sure.
And he just kept wearing. I said, you just got to fight through that, man. Every day, it'll get less and less and less, and it'll get to the point where it just becomes what you wear to work every day, and people will stop making comments. And that's exactly what happened. But another magical thing happened. People that he worked with stopped kind of poking at him, and management started to pay attention and recognize him. And to finish this story off, it was the first day he showed up to work wearing corporate casual, and I'm sitting there in the hallway at an intersection talking with that particular factory's engineering manager, basically. And I was talking with her about something, and Mike walked by, and he just kind of gave me the head nod. It's like, good morning. And I said, morning, Mike. And the lady that I was speaking with, the manager, kind of turned and looked at who I had acknowledged as he walked by and just went into the factory. And she immediately turned to me and said, who's that? And I said, oh, that's Mike. And I, told her his last name. And she's like, that's Mike, so-and-so. I was like, yeah. And she's like, really? I was like, yeah. She's like, I'm like, Mike. And she's like, well, yeah, but that was Mike. And she was completely beside herself. Because even though she's heard the name many times, and I'm sure she spoke it to him many times, she never really actually saw him. You know what I mean? Like, she saw him, but she never really
I
saw
know
him.
exactly what you mean. It's kind of like,
and I told him that story, and I was like, and Mike's like, what do you mean? Like, I talk to her all the time. I was like, yeah, I know, Mike. I said, but she just always saw you as an assembler and never really noticed you for anything more than that. That's not saying anything bad about her, and it's not saying anything bad about you. It's just the nature of the relationship that was developed, and a lot of that was based around your attire, because the only thing that changed in that exchange was what he was wearing. That was it. He didn't show up to work one day and all of a sudden he was a better assembler than he was the day before. Right.
No, I know. I deal with this stuff every day.
Yeah.
It's because perception is reality.
Oh,
folks.
man, it absolutely
just is. It just is. And if you have, things are becoming more acceptable in our society at this point. But if you have tattoo sleeves and you have gauges in your ears and you have jewelry in your face and you have tattoos on your neck, people are going to totally perceive who you are, what you are, or what you can bring to the table before you even,
before you even have a chance.
Folks, it is what it is. It's one of those things. You can do the research on why that is, but that's our society.
Mm-hmm.
That's because the norms are what they are. Right. So you can either use the skills that you have to mitigate those on a daily basis and maybe wear a long sleeve shirt, maybe take the gauges out of your ears, or how about the jewelry out of your face? Mm-hmm. Because most people are going to look at you different if you're going to try to get a job with the government than if you're trying to get a job at a tattoo parlor.
But that's not fair, Bennett.
Well, I'm not going to say the word, but yeah, I'm sorry. It's not fair. It's not, because life isn't.
Yeah.
But it's like the exact thing. It's like if you want a job, right? Mm-hmm. Just like you just gave that story. This is a quick story, and then we can move. If you want that job, I don't care what job it is. I don't care if it's a job at McDonald's or Wendy's. If you're a man, wear a suit to an interview.
Yeah.
At least a shirt and tie. You must.
Yep, I agree.
And if you don't, and you don't get the job, I told you so.
Yep.
Because I guarantee you that how many different 20-year-olds are there with all kinds of experience going in for their first job, for a job interview? I can guarantee you that the one big differentiator that you can make in this day and age is to wear a freaking suit. Mm-hmm. I know for a fact that the reason I got the job that I'm in is because I wear a suit. Beyond all my credentials and all of the work that I've done, there were about 3 or 4 of us that were probably in equal standing when it came to what we did, right? Mm-hmm. And the biggest reason, we were all about the same age. We all had the same experience level, yada, yada, yada. The thing is that I wore a suit. The other 2 guys didn't. Mm-hmm. Like, seriously? You're a 40-year-old man and you didn't wear a suit to a job interview.
Right.
Just saying.
Yep.
Don't fall into the trap, folks. The society still is that. Yep, you still have to do the things that differentiate you from the other people, and one of those would be to wear a suit. Mm-hmm. Or whatever, dress the part, because that stuff matters. It just does.
Well, it's like
it doesn't have to be fair.
When I interviewed at my job at Coke, after I got the job, my boss said to me, he goes, you came in wearing that suit. He goes, you totally didn't have to do that. You could have just come in casual. And I said, yes, I could have. I said, but the other people that you interviewed for this position, did they come in wearing a suit? And he goes, yeah, many of them did. And I said, so why would I right out of the gate put myself at a disadvantage over my competition by something that's within my power to change, right? I mean, you said it, right? You may not be able to have more experience than you have. You may not be able to have, at the time of the interview, you can't have more experience than you have. You can't have more education than you have. You have what you have, but you've got something within your power to kind of turn that tide a little bit, and that's your attire. Why not take the advantage? Where if it's within your power, it's within your control, why not? Right?
Yeah, if you're not doing it just because you're lazy,
right,
then you don't deserve it.
Right. You're right. Absolutely.
There you go.
Yeah. So the truth is, many show up to work wearing attire that they don't wear on the weekends when they're when they're in their own element. And for many, work attire is uncomfortable, unfamiliar, and awkward. I mean, that's true for me. I don't go to work, or I don't, hang out on the weekends in my house wearing what I wear at work. I mean,
I don't have a polo shirt and freaking pants on because that's what I wear to work every day.
Right.
A pants and a polo. I don't wear that off of work. I maybe sometimes I do, but not usually. Right. I'll switch out the pants for like jeans.
Yeah, exactly.
But usually I wear a t-shirt. I don't wear polo. Yep. Once in a while. Oh, we're going to dinner. Okay, I'll put a polo on.
Yeah, exactly.
That's it. That's it.
Receiving feedback about your attire can be scary and uncomfortable, but if you don't receive it well, you will be a victim to one of the two options I mentioned earlier. People are either going to go to the HR department and complain about you, or they're just going to complain about you behind your back, and you're never going to know. If you are a manager, then there's I forgot to mention at the top of the show, Bennett, that I've got a resource that's available for each of these episodes during the 11-part series. And if you want a copy of the resource, it's got links, it's got additional podcasts, some books that I recommend, and some blog posts that I also recommend around the topic. You could get that for free simply by going to iTunes, leaving an honest rating and review, taking a screen capture of that review, and emailing it to me at eddie@changeyourpov.com. And when you do that, I will send you the link and password to all of the resources for all of these this 11-part series. So again, changeyourpov.com / oh, my bad. Let me say that again. Leave a rating review on iTunes, take a screenshot of your rating, and email it to me at eddie@changeyourpov.com. And I will send you the link and password so you can get access to all of this. It's good stuff. So there is a podcast episode that I recommend. If you're a manager and you need to provide feedback to one of your directs, there's a good way to do that. And Manager Tools is a resource that I often use as a manager as a reference when it comes to things like this. And they have an incredible episode called How to Give Feedback About Attire that I recommend. So the link to that is in this document that you can get for the show. So number 2 is take a look at yourself from the eyes of your manager. This is where we get into a little bit of the psychology of what your attire means to others. I think, Bennett, you've already kind of touched on this. Even though it's actually very simple, it's hard to really wrap your head around because we very rarely get to learn about what management really thinks about us. Management all the time are talking about us behind closed doors, but we're not always privy to those conversations. But trust me, folks, it happens. It happens all the time, and it happens about you, okay? I'm sure that most of us have heard the expression, dress for the job you want, not the job you have. We've already talked about that. This is exactly what we are talking about here. At the end of the day, if you're interested in becoming a supervisor, a manager, director, or executive, you will never be promoted into these roles unless other managers and the decision makers within your organization can actually see you in those roles, which is what I already talked about with Mike. So it's not about how you see you, it's about how others see you. And just because it's not fair doesn't make it any less true.
Nope. I mean, seriously, if they can't see you in that position, you will never, ever get it.
Never.
It's really that simple.
Yep.
And it's not, it really is just that simple.
Mm-hmm.
And there are things that you can do to make it so so they do see you in that. You just have to execute on them.
Yeah, and that's what we're going to get into next. And number 3 is find a mentor model. And you're like, what the hell does that mean? Well, we all look to others to see. I mean, let's be honest. We're all guilty of this, dude. We're all, if you're a human being, then you've done this. You're susceptible to this. We all look to others to see what movies they like, what's good on Netflix, what songs to listen to, and books to read. At our core, we want to do what others do. We like what others like, and we want others to like what we like. Would you agree?
I would.
So take the same concept and apply it to work. Find 1 or 2 people that you work with that you consider to have a good professional taste in attire. Look closely at what they wear and how they wear it. And keep an open eye. What this does is and again, you don't need to walk up to them and be like, yo, you're going to be my mentor model, right? I mean, you could do this.
Shop.
Yeah, right. You could do that, but you can also do this from afar, right? When I was in the military, another quick story. When I was in the military, and again, the military is a little bit easier because everyone's wearing the same uniform. I mean, you're wearing your blouse and your BDU pants every day. You're wearing shine boots. You're wearing a beret, and you better have a shaved face. But we also
they don't shine their boots anymore.
Not anymore. I know. Back when we were in the Army. But I also had to wear. I don't know. Did you have to wear this? We had to wear earplug case with the unit crest on it.
No. That's wicked gay.
Did you see that? You know what I'm talking
about?
I
have seen units like that, but
so it was such there was no so it was an earplug case that had earplugs in it, but you weren't allowed to use the earplugs, right?
Right.
It was like I have no idea why they did it. So ridiculous. But that's what we did. We wore their little earplug case with a unit crest on it, and I think it was more of a way for people to identify what unit you come from. I don't know.
No, I don't know. It's a check the block for safety.
Maybe it's a esprit de corps kind of thing. I'm not sure.
But that's ridiculous.
But so the only thing that was different though is how well you wore that uniform. And so I would find a couple of people within my unit that I saw as just always wearing a squared away uniform, and I would look at that and say, what did they do, or what was it about the uniform that made it stand apart from everyone else? And I would use those as essentially as a mentor model from afar, and say, okay, I really liked how he wears his beret, or I really like how he has his pants bloused, or I really whatever it is, like the small details about a squared away uniform. And sometimes, as you know, Bennett, it's the little things makes all the difference in the world, right? And so I would pick out different mentor models. So you could do the same thing at work. Find some folks within your organization that you find that wears good working corporate, whatever your culture is in your company, whatever is acceptable at the management level. That's what you're looking at. You don't want to look at another assembler and say, I really like what that assembler is wearing. If you want to be a manager, you need to find some mentor models that are managers. If you want to be an executive, find some mentor models that are executives and model your attire off of them. Okay. What this does though is it allows you to keep an open mind and know that not everything that looks good on them will look good on you, and vice versa. Right. Obviously, there's women that I work with that dress professionally, but using them as a mentor model doesn't help me. Right. Because I'm not going to show up to work with a skirt, at least not anytime soon. Finding a mentor model or two will allow you to be open to fashion. It will keep your mind open to continuous improvement. And best of all, will help you be more receptive to feedback. And I did find an incredible article around mentoring from afar about Jack Dorsey emulates Steve Jobs. Great article that I read that the link to that is in the document too. And number 4, just because it's not fair doesn't mean it isn't true. And we've kind of already touched on this several times throughout this, but I think it's worth mentioning again. This is a concept that has a lot of people wrapped around the axles. There's no easy way to say this, so I'm just going to rip off the Band-Aid, right? Many things in life are not fair or just shouldn't matter, but the fact of the matter is that they do matter, and just because it isn't fair doesn't make it any less true. I'm sorry, it just doesn't. We are all impacted by our environment, and like it or not, we are judged by others in our environment based on many things. Appearance and attire are one of those things. When we see, here's an example, when we see a homeless person on the streets wearing dirty, ripped clothes, we make certain inferences about that person, right? Or when we see a teenage girl in the mall wearing inappropriately revealing clothing, we also make inferences about her, don't we? What about the middle-aged man wearing a nice, well-fitted suit with shine shoes, a nice watch, and a well-groomed haircut? What inferences do we make about him, right? Now ask yourself, are any of these inferences that you've just made about these people even true? Are they? Maybe some of it is, maybe a lot of it isn't. But you said it already, Bennett. Perception is reality, isn't it?
It is.
Now, one last thing is think about yourself. What inferences are people making about you? And are they true or are they not true? And if they're not true, does it matter? Because perception is reality. It's still their inference about you, right?
Yep, exactly. And you know what? The only thing that you can do to change that inference is if it's outside the norm, is for you to change it. No, it doesn't mean that it's the all. It makes me think of Fight Club. Yeah, we're all right. Beautiful, unique snowflakes, right? Yes. As true as that may be, it's not true in corporate America.
Right.
It's just not. We're all not beautiful, unique snowflakes. People fit inside categories. That's just the way it is. Mm-hmm. Now, you can start a job or not a job. You know what? Start a movement then. If you don't want to be freaking lumped in with everyone else, then start a movement to change that.
Yeah.
There's your new job. You just start a blog, start a new living, whatever. Change it. But until it's changed, that's the way it is. And so here's the other thing, Eddie, and you and I have talked about this in the past. Those norms shift. So you have to pay attention.
Oh, you're right. Absolutely right.
I mean, back in the 50s and 60s, every man wore a suit to work, basically.
Right. Regardless of the type of industry, right? I mean,
dude, shoe salesmen wore a suit to work.
Right.
They would take their coat off while they were working,
mm-hmm.
but they left their tie on,
mm-hmm.
and then they would put their coat back on and go to work. So things do shift, things do change, but at the end of the day, it's still the same constraints.
Right.
So if you want that to change, then you better start a movement or become an entrepreneur.
Yeah, or find a place to work that matches or fits perfectly with your own personality,
persona, right? Or whatever it is. Yeah.
I guarantee you, there's probably a lot of people that work for Google, for example, that can go to work wearing whatever they wear on the weekend, and it's perfectly acceptable given that culture.
Absolutely. Right? Yep.
But that's not true for most.
But I also know that even at Google, as hard as they work to work outside that construct, if you are a dude walking around with a laptop and you have to walk into a boardroom somewhere else to pitch something,
mm-hmm.
you're not going to be wearing what you are wearing at Google to go to Microsoft to pitch them whatever.
Correct. Right.
I'm just saying it's at the end of the day, you still have these perceptions. And if you're wearing a t-shirt and jeans, you're not gonna be taken as seriously anywhere. You're just not. I don't know how that, how to explain that any other way. It's just a different reality.
And it's not fair, Bennett.
It isn't, actually. I mean, we make fun of that because we play the game.
Yeah.
And that's what you have to do, folks. This is a game. And I learned this a long time ago. You got to play the game to be successful at it. And if you don't play the game, then you end up homeless.
Yep.
It's just part of the life is somewhat of a game. It just is.
Remember,
and if you approach it like that, you can take it in digestible bites.
Remember,
but if you go ahead,
you remember in high school, and all the cool kids would wear like sports jerseys, and they all did it. It was all because they were cool, right? Listen, folks, I hate this. Is stupid, but corporate America,
same.
Adult living, it's no different. It just there's right. I often say that corporate America is nothing more than an adult version of high school. It just is.
It just is. It just is. I mean, and if you want something different, then create it.
Yeah.
Because it's like I say with like Nick and I, Nick's business attire at Battle Site is t-shirt and jeans. That's what he's going for. But I guarantee if he's giving a presentation, he's got a jeans. He might have a t-shirt on still, but he's got a coat.
Right. But if he's gonna walk in and pitch Battle Site to the Department of Defense, right?
No, he's not wearing jeans and a t-shirt.
Right.
He's not doing it.
Exactly. And it doesn't make him a bad person. Doesn't make the people in the audience bad people. It just makes it just the way it is. It just is the way it is, right?
Yeah. And I don't know how to change it other than, so what? Get over it. Just play the game.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean you have to like it. It just is. It's
like, listen, we're crossing this ocean. You can either play with everyone else and get in the boat, or be different and swim your ass across. That's fine, right? Yeah. But if you get swept up and washed away and forgotten about, then
ate by a shark.
It's your fault, right?
Right.
It's just your fault. All right, last one, number 5. Find a quote fly. Your fly is open friend. I call it your fly is open friend. This is a piece of advice that I give to anyone that is truly interested in making the necessary changes in their life and in their environment in order to be successful. We all need a, quote, true friend. I call this your fly is open friend. Someone that will tell you that you have a wardrobe malfunction, or that you have food in your teeth, a bug on your shoulder, a stain on your shirt, or that you smell a little too much like BO and perhaps a shot of deodorant wouldn't be a bad idea, right? This is the friend that's saying to you what everyone else is already saying about you behind your back. We need candid people like this in our life, at work, outside of work, and involved in everything that we do. Let's not get this confused with people in our life that are shooting down everything we do. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about people that are still supportive in what we do. They're just being candid about their relationship with you, right?
Yep. I'm your fly is open friend.
Hell yeah, from afar. You're like,
from afar.
You're in New York, I'm in New Hampshire. You're like, dude, check your fly. I think it might be open.
Check it. Check that shit. Take a picture of yourself right now and send it to me.
It's like, and this is the weird thing about it, right? We all want people to do that for us, but why do we find it so difficult to do it for other people, right?
See, this is one of those things. I guess it's a muscle that you have to exercise. I know, and you have to kind of think about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is you might even hate the person. I'm telling you, this is also a good way. Let's flip it just 1 second.
Okay.
This is a way to gain trust with coworkers and other people. Is that if you perceive, even if that person is not somebody that you get along with, but you walk up to them and say, "Hey, buddy, your fly's open." Are they not going to appreciate that?
Right.
And if they don't, then shame on them.
Mm-hmm.
But you have done a good thing for your fellow coworker or whoever, right?
Right.
But that makes you, it's again, perception's reality. And if you're just kind of a dick,
Yeah.
or because inaction is just as bad.
Mm-hmm. Right.
It's like everyone knew my wife was cheating on me and nobody said a damn thing.
Mm.
I mean, that's a little deep. That's a little deeper.
I was like, damn,
but yeah, but you know what I'm saying? It's the analogy of that.
Yeah, right, sure.
So wouldn't you want to know?
Right, exactly right.
Oh, I'm not getting involved in that. But this is just normal stuff, guys.
Yeah.
Like if he's got a big gigantic piece of pepper in his teeth, wouldn't your boss want to know that?
Mm-hmm.
Why wouldn't you tell him?
Yeah. I mean, there's right ways to go about it. I mean,
absolutely. You're not going to yell it out in the boardroom. Hey, bro, you got salad in your teeth.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Exactly. Find a strategic way to pull him off to the side and be like, listen, you've got something in your teeth. You might want to go rinse your mouth really fast or whatever.
Right.
I don't. But it's just try to be a good person.
Damn.
And
we talk about that a lot, don't we?
Oh, it's freaking weird.
I know.
But that will. I mean, yeah, it's going to take work at first because you have to actually think in that fashion. But sooner or later, it becomes habit. So for me, is what I'm getting at here is that is habit now. I am that guy that tells everyone their fly is open.
Right.
And that but it's strategic. You have to be strategic or you're just going to be kind of like a dick.
Yep.
So you've got to use it wisely, but it can be used to gain favor as well. Just saying.
And there's maybe a sixth point here. We can throw this on as a bonus point, but if you're not sure, ask. Well, he's not my boss anymore. There was a gentleman that was my boss. I now have a new boss. A lot of things changed in my organization over the last several months. And but when he was my boss, we planned on taking a trip out to Connecticut to a conference, a small business conference that we are representing our company at. And so we've already made arrangements, got hotels, etc. He's no longer my boss now, but we're still going. And, so we're going to go together and we're representing our company. And we both registered on the website and we got our, yada, yada, yada. We did everything we had to do. We checked in. But it doesn't really specify like what the attire is. It's explicitly. It doesn't really explicitly say what the attire is for the event. So I asked him, I was like, so what is the attire? Are we going in suit and tie, or is it corporate casual, or is it like corporate casual? I mean, there's different levels of a corporate attire. And he goes, oh, just corporate casual. He goes, we're not wearing suits. I'm like, okay. And that's fine. But how silly would we have looked had the two of us shown up representing our company and I was wearing a suit and tie and he was wearing a polo and khakis. Like right. how I would have, not trying to be professional, but I would have inadvertently made him feel a little silly, right?
Yep.
I would have effectively made him feel underdressed and probably uncomfortable through the entire day of festivities. So understanding attire is not only benefit you, but it also benefit the other people that you're with and you're around, because you don't want to be that guy that shows up underdressed, and you don't want to be that guy that shows up overdressed either. I mean, if we're talking about interviews, that's different. You're probably going to be the only one in the interview wearing a suit and tie, right? The interviewer is probably not going to be in a suit and tie, but they could be. But I'm not talking about there's extenuating circumstances where you're going to show up overdressed no matter what, and interviews is definitely one of them. If you're going to be a speaker at a conference, for example, you're probably going to be a little bit more well dressed than those that are in the audience, for example. But it's all about being aware of your environment and being at least cognizant of those. You got to know to ask those questions. because you got to know that they matter, right? And that's the big thing. That's the big takeaway here is when I first got out of the Army, I didn't know that any of that mattered, right? Because I didn't know what I didn't know. I had to learn some of that the hard way, unfortunately.
Yeah, especially with job interviews, always wear a suit.
Always.
I don't care. It's just.
I don't care if you're applying to be, a burger flipper at McDonald's. Like, you know what I mean? It doesn't really matter the level or the position.
It's so here's what it is, folks. It's respect. It's a respect thing, and if. Unfortunately, I think that's an issue in this day and age. Is there's a lack of respect for a lot of things, and it's just respect, folks. If you want the job, trust me, wear a suit.
Yeah.
Or as a female, whatever the equivalent to a suit is.
Right. Yeah.
And that could be a suit. I mean, they have suits for women, but whatever the equivalent is.
Yep.
Dress above the part, period.
Yep, absolutely. Well, very good. Thank you, Bennett, for your time. For a really quick recap here, this is the number 2 of the 11 things that you don't get taught that you still need to know. Number 2 is how you look is how you're seen, and we covered 5 talking points. Number 1, how you see you and how others see you. Number 2, take a look at yourself from the eyes of your managers. Number 3, find a mentor model. Number 4, just because it's not fair doesn't mean it isn't true. Number 5, find your fly is open friend. And there is some incredible resources on this document. There's a couple of books that I recommend and some blog posts, some good reads there around attire in professional workspace. So go and check that out, and you can get all of this for free by simply leaving us an honest rating and review on iTunes at Change Your POV Podcast Network, taking a screen capture of your review and emailing it to me at eddie@changeyourpov.com, and I will immediately email you back with the link and password for all of the links of this and all the other shows of this 11-part series. With that, thank you, my friend, for coming on and helping us talk through this.
It's a pleasure, always.
All right, folks, until next time.